Joining us now, Chloe Driver's ex, baby Hannah's father, Ben Rosenrock, formerly known as Benjamin Ben Michael. He's joining us by phone as we had some connection problems earlier. So, Ben, hopefully you can hear me. And I just want to start by saying, person to person, I'm so sorry for your loss. I can't think of anything worse than for a parent to have to bury a child. What happened to your beautiful daughter was nothing short of horrific and should not have happened. So let me just begin by saying, person to person, I'm very sorry.
Hi, Julie. How are you?
I'm glad you can hear me, Ben. Well, thank you, and thank you for joining me here today. I want to begin by asking you about your thoughts on the sentence that the judge gave Chloe, your ex-wife. What did you think about parole after 30 years being a possibility?
I don't remember us getting divorced.
Oh, you're still married?
I work in a jurisdiction that is higher than the jurisdiction of the United States Commerce Code. I work under international ecclesiastical canon law. That would have required her and I to go stand before a canon law judge in Switzerland, and we called it that.
Okay. Are you a sovereign citizen as well?
I find the word sovereign citizen both repugnant and moronic, because sovereign means you are the supreme of something, and a citizen means you're an underling. Two terms are repugnant to put together and moronic.
Okay.
Also, I would never claim that. Sovereign citizen implicitly within the moronic term implies extra privileges. The privileged class are judges and police who have extra privileges to utilize their ability to attempt to help people and bring justice. So the police and judges are sovereign citizens. They get extra privileges.
Well, I don't want to get off track.
You have a class.
Well, let's talk about what's
important. A class that has rights. So I work on the side of rights. There's rights and privileges, and there's a few more privileges.
Okay. So let's talk about what is important. You said you're still married to Chloe Driver. So then your wife
I'm not saying
sentenced.
I'm necessarily interested in the relationship. I'm just saying at a lawful sense.
Mr. Rosenrock, I'm not interested in arguing with you. You said you'd like to come onto the program, and we would like to ask you some questions about your baby who was murdered and about your wife. You corrected me when I said your ex-wife. When I said your wife, you corrected me as well. We're not going to play games here. So let's get down to serious business. Your daughter was murdered, sir. How do you feel about your wife's sentence for murdering your child?
Like I said on stand, I'm not sure there is a sentence that would speak to her, or that any kind of sentence. There's no sentencing that can recover my daughter. So what happens with her sentencing and with her life, it is what it is. And with that legal society, they decided she could have parole. You know, when she's 50 years old, if that's coming up, then she's probably not going to go out and murder any babies if it's parole.
Well, we certainly hope not. Mr. Rosenrock, where were you during the trial?
I have a close friend of mine, Jason Spillers, who testified in the trial, who made some trouble with the guy he was living with in Savannah, and he wanted to extend that to me. So even though I spoke to the gentleman, Sean Kyle Brishan brought me to a book and told Jason's explicit affidavit that I had nothing to do with any of the things that items Kyle may have had lost, that he still continued to pursue a larceny charge, made it felonious. On my trip back down, I just driven 18 hours out of Myrtle Beach for summer, dropped my wife Anna, her new little baby, Etowah in Connecticut, stopped by the farm where my wife Shayla is, 30 minutes from there, turned around and drove 20 hours back down here. Got picked up in Tennessee. We're going a little too fast in the traffic, whatever it's called, where they sit and watch. And I ended up in jail in McMinn County, Tennessee during the trial for about 20 days. I've never really been in any situation like that. And I had a little situation when I got put in pods, because some people think the guy that I had a very different kind of crime, he attacked me, and I ended up victim getting put in the isolation for 23 days. Pretty terrible.
It sounds pretty terrible. Do you still have that case pending in Tennessee?
The case is not in Tennessee. It's a case out of Pooler, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. It's just that I was going through there, and
You had
I
a
was.
warrant.
It's a place that even people in the jail made it a joke about this one cop Emery because it's there, and it drastically changes from 65 to 45.
Yeah, so you got picked up in a speed trap you're talking about. But
Right,
you had an
yeah,
outstanding
yeah.
warrant? Is that what you're telling us, the warrant out of Georgia?
I did, and
That
I
makes sense.
felt as soon as I got in there that the guy was just. I had my wife Shaylee call him because he spent time at our Maple Syrup property, and a known guy.
Okay.
I gave a lawsuit, and it felt like he would drop the charges pretty. He didn't. So I was only on a hold as a fugitive of justice from Pooler for this larceny.
Okay, so you were in jail during this trial, and that is why you say you weren't there. Tell us about
Unfortunately,
your
and,
relationship with Chloe, please. Our understanding is you met her when she was just a minor.
Well, I was passing through a bus stop. I was in the middle of dealing with a very complicated situation with Gabriella Shemaya. And I was passing back through a Greyhound bus station. There was this Greyhound drama going on with strikes at the time. It was a thing, and our bus was getting very delayed. I was walking back, and this young girl was looking at me, and I'd seen her since I walked in, and she said to me, I said, "Oh, are you on this delay too?" And she said, "No, I just have a regular 3-hour bus to town." We started talking. I guessed her age to be about 21 at the time. We were talking, we talked for about 1.5 hours. We exchanged contact information, and as the human drama would go, I got back with Gabriella with my phone about 2 days after. So I had no contact with the girl until many months later when she called me.
Okay, was there contact when she was a minor child, though, inappropriate contact?
There was no inappropriate contact. At the time, she had turned 17, and she was contacting me and asking me questions about the nature of life and reality, and called me her rabbi, playfully.
Do you deny that you're a cult leader, sir?
If I'm a cult leader, I'm a very bad cult leader. I have had the training and the aptitude to be a cult leader, but if you take classic examples like the movies or Scientology, there's an aspect of like overpraise and validation. There are certain things that go into running a cult. If I'm a cult leader, I'm a very bad cult leader. I don't really have a cult following. Maybe in the time when Chloe and I were a couple, I feel like it might be closer to saying evangelist. We'd go around and share information with people, but I don't believe I've ever reached cult status, and I really wouldn't call myself a cult leader. It seems scandalous. I want to make the tabloid flash, but I don't really have a cult. I have some people who have heard some information, who are, in reductive terms, truth seekers. I call myself a cult leader.
Do you agree
Mostly because I push people away, and I ask them to get under their skin. I ask them to sort their stuff out, and I say a lot of stuff that I know is either going to shut them down or they're going to put in the real work of human development. So you wouldn't really do that as a cult leader. You'd find a way to massage their ego. I guess that's a good term. You'd find a way to massage, and I don't do that. People want to stick around and actually participate after I'm like pushing them back. Like, you've really got to get.
So that's on them, huh?
That's on them.
On them, huh?
And
Okay.
anybody, if you ask Jason Spillers, even if you ask any of the girls who are with me now, they know that I push them back to analyze themselves and build their self more. If they decide to stay and develop love and relationships or connect, that's great. Would I love to have a community of autonomous people who know how to process with their minds and develop and work and farm together? Yeah, and we're making inroads towards picking up land and bringing people who want to use their own minds and decide to stay at their own volition. That's true, but I wouldn't call myself a cult.
Okay, interesting. Do you agree with the prosecution's theory? They put forth a theory that the reason that Chloe killed baby Hannah was that she felt that Hannah was getting in the way of the affection that she wanted from you, that Chloe was seeking from you.
I hadn't actually heard that expressed. I know they expressed things like she felt like Anna and Shaylee. Actually, they didn't say this, but candidly, probably the thing that affected her most, because she had been with those wives. I mean, Shayla, pretty new, but it gets deep fast if they're like little liaisons and affairs you've had for 2 months. They go into it pretty fast. So Shayla had been around for about. I believe the thing not being said is the thing that she felt was taking my attention that scared her the most had nothing to do with Sister Wives. It was Jason Spillers. I had a strong male figure who had a very powerful mind of his own who was listening with those little handwritten notes, and I was scared because people started listening. She really was talking about the amount of hours and time that I was spending on the phone, and then meetings with Jason Spillers was taking away from what candidly would be her ability to manipulate and control and get more energy because she would have fits. So if you're looking at the defensive theory, there was one factor, Julie, on Wednesday 13th, before I took off, like why I just turned around and realized with the defense being exposed for how they were going to try to play me and Dotson Kessler misrepresenting himself to me for a few months, and then the state not being sure how it was going to work, I just decided to drive down. Got a friend who was watching court TV relayed to me Officer Chris Shaw's explanation of the way that she killed my daughter, because that is something through the jail call that Chloe had withheld from me. She said, put a little puncture hole in her neck and drained her, held her, and told her I loved her, which is awful and disgusting sounding to begin with. But it was a different picture when I heard what she brutally did. Every element of my body switched on, every neuron, every nerve, and I realized what really happened.
It was
because
horrific.
It's a problem in a relationship. Well, it's a problem in a relationship when you believe in somebody, because they're your human, and...
Well, you had multiple humans. I mean, you had multiple wives, and as you said, part of the problem was she's jealous of the wives. She's got this baby. The other wives didn't have babies, and that was kind of what the prosecution's putting forth. You mentioned Jason Spillers. If I'm not mistaken, he's the member of your cult that drinks his own urine, right?
Well, I mean, it's what you were starting to say, is that Chloe enjoyed a lot of time with me by herself because the period with Gabriella had ended, and we had at least a year and a half, and some of that led to her feeling a certain sort of level of connection. And, Jason is into a lot of interesting health modalities. He also owns the same machine that the NFL and the NBA use, the AARP machine. That's rapid muscle and bone regeneration during games. So he has a lot of health technology. I just ask anybody not to get lost in the weeds of that. The point is that I was spending a lot of time with Jason, and some of these, I would go further than the defense. And it seemed that she really started disconnecting at about on his birthday, because it was sort of a drama that day down in Siesta Key, Florida. And it seemed like from that point forward now, once I realized what I realized on Wednesday the 13th, that she had decided to disconnect and then started the next phase. See if she could normalize or reintegrate outside of, here's the way I can put it to you, Julie. The entire time that I've been talking to people in law capacities and various family capacities about this incident, I said, this isn't like the classic Casey Anthony guilt party where you have an infant, a baby, you don't want them, you want to get back into the exuberance of your life. This isn't like that because she was killing herself. And I realized, no, this is all like a last resort. There are elements of this because what she really wanted to do was complete what I would call the raising of a moral consciousness. That when I meet people who I have more information than or know how to be better balanced and self-regulated as a being in life, I feel the obligation to help them. And she didn't want that. So it really wasn't about jealousy about the system at the end. It was that they were of a lesser level of development and refinement about ways to be. And it doesn't mean that Chloe was always being them, but she understood how to be them. And she could see that they were still confused, and she didn't want to have to put any effort anymore, really self-develop. So then she started maybe phase 2 or 3 or whatever you want. We started hanging out a lot with her family in the month of July. We were basically staying in Knoxville with Eric and Renee and Kyle and Aaron. And we were going down to a place south of Marysville where there was all this water,
Understood.
and we spent a lot of time together. And what she realized
Appreciate your perspective
is that
on
she
this.
realized she couldn't reintegrate with her family.
She couldn't become normal again. You're saying once she decided to leave your cult, she couldn't become normal and go back into society.
I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say that she had changed enough that she didn't feel like that was a glove fit either. She felt like she had no place. And I'm saying it's less about my quotes cult and more about her changing herself at this level of life or this level of way of acting or just getting supply and satisfaction out of watching TV or just hanging around. That didn't work either. So at that point, she's trying to come back and figure out what to do with herself. And at a certain point, she realized that her sense of development and refinement was so far along that either she was going to have to live life in honor and integrity, leave the cult on, but I'm just saying herself as a human, wherever she went, she was going to have to live up to this or feel like she was failing at living up to the level of refinement of human consciousness, of morality. She wasn't going to be able just to jerk around or take her daughter, go to St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, and just...
Yeah, there's accountability in life, that's for sure. Thank you for that perspective, sir. Let's talk about something else you may or may not be aware of. It came out in the courtroom that during the trial, apparently, Chloe Driver was having phone sex with her boyfriend from the jail. Let's take a listen.
During the course of her trial, where the rest of us were dealing with the burden and weight of having to advocate on behalf of that child, she's going back to the jail every night and having phone sex with her boyfriend. Talking about what size penis she likes, how she likes rough sex, how she wants to be treated like a rag doll, how she wants someone to ejaculate in her mouth. We are all having to watch people fall to pieces over that baby in this courtroom. And she goes back to the jail and can't wait to have phone sex.
Mr. Rosenrock, what's your reaction to that?
I mean, it fits some of the worst character flaws that I know too well about Chloe. And, it's pretty disgusting. I mean, I share Katie's sentiment. If nothing else, it's kind of like I was hearing a little bit of that case you were doing earlier in the show, where you're having technical issues. Obviously, completely different dynamic context of the term, but it's just bad optics. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to be like that depraved, don't be so stupid as to do it in a way that it can become public. I mean, it's nasty in and of itself. It shows, and it may indicate, at the very least, a lack of, a level of detachment from what's actually going on. And, even, without having had my recent, very particularly traumatically short stay, being in jail can do things to you. There are human urges. But, I mean, it's probably not a good thing.
Right. Mr. Rosenrock,
I don't
tell
really
me.
take a position on it.
Gotcha. Understood. And to be clear, that wasn't you on the phone with her, right?
No. She had decided to stop speaking to me, potentially based on his words to me in recent months because of Jonathan Kessler coming on the case in February of 2023, I believe was the last time we ever spoke.
Okay.
And because of certain changes, I believe she was using as escapism to join the Jehovah's Witnesses. She was getting on medication again. She was going through one of these manic sort of, I'm going to reinvent myself.
Sure. Mr. Rosenrock, do you feel any sense of responsibility for
I do.
the deterioration of her mental health?
Oh, my daughter.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So let's take these in turn. Do you feel responsible for what happened to your daughter, Hannah?
She kept demonstrating in intervals complete sanity and stability. And that's another big problem for me. And I'll come back real quick. That she was acting the entire time, and it's crystal clear to me that she is still acting, and I believe that J.D. Crawford understands that. And it's like the way when you have a toddler and they bump themselves and stuff, that doesn't really hurt, but cry. and as soon as they feel validated, they stop. It was too much of a light switch that she could go back to complete sanity and stability. That was also part of when you're connected to somebody and you believe in them and they're your human, which is why I brought up her having such an expansive time with me for a year and a half or whatever it was by herself. Like, she was like more mine. Even if you just take Anna, right? Anna came in, Chloe was there. Shaylee comes, Anna and Chloe are there. Chloe was like, in a way, had this stint where she was in a monogamous, effective relationship. She would, you believe in something. They, especially when they do things, and you do things for them, and you get into this life context where, husband, wife, regular scenario, how you believe in each other on a baseline. And that made it really hard. I've been tapering back over the years. I didn't question that. It makes it hard, when they start acting erratically. You have to look back and realize that in their heart and mind, they left the relationship at some point before. They're just there, but they're not who you believed they were. So in regards to responsibility for my daughter, it would have been, even though seeing her come back to crystal clear, regular life, I should have never left her alone with her that day. I wanted the other girls to get to rest. They were both driving vehicles. We were all pushing really hard to get this done. It was just a momentary lapse of, why did I let her go hang out by herself just because she was being pretty normal since we were in North Carolina the previous Thursday? And that's, or that I was kind of in such a OCD getting all of mine and Gabriella's stuff out of Jerry's basement that I just didn't ground myself for a minute and go, remember the conditions she's been going in and out of? Take the shirt, take the diaper, go upstairs and make sure she's okay. And it's just like total nonsense, stuff like that. Like,
Sure.
As regards to her mental health, and the question I apologize for interrupting you. You were really asking
No.
me
I
about
wanted
her
to ask
mental
you
health.
both of those. Yes, pertaining to Chloe's then.
No, I don't feel anything like that, Julie.
Okay.
She came, and what she had was a lot of exuberance, and I don't know that she's ever been tested, but and sometimes Jason Spillers makes me want to puke in my own mouth and not present my views on women very well, and he's very misogynistic. I believe that women actually have far more powerful minds than men. Just they work in a different way, which is usually an intuition, and that Chloe had the ability to understand without having to go through the things that I shared with her. And so she came with a lot of exuberance to receive information like that, but she also had a lot of trauma that we didn't need to go into the weeds of.
Right. No, we're certainly aware. We heard a lot about her mental health through the trial.
So
We're out of time, so we really, there's really not much more we can squeeze in. We're out of time, but I do want to say thank you again to you, Mr. Ben Rosenrock, formerly known as Benjamin Ben Michael, baby Hannah's dad. Again, we are so sorry for your loss, and thank you for coming on the program and answering our questions.